Om Shanti, good evening everyone, welcome. Good to see you, happy to see you. How are you? Who are you? I think we always have wonderful feelings on Friday night. That's why I like Friday night. And that's why we call it originally the Friday night for many, many years. It's been called Easy Friday. And I hope you feel that there is the capacity on Friday night to just pull, or how to say, to push the week behind and say, okay, bye-bye. No, I mean, a few may be working on the weekend, but those who don't and who had done the whole week, it's always a good feeling on Friday night to say, yes, now I have time for other things. And hopefully there's time for the self on the weekend, not just busy again on the weekend. And there's a beauty on when we start to relax a little bit, to let go, of whatever has been creating maybe tensions or stress or something during the week. Friday is a good time to say, well, that's it, I'll let go. And then we get ready for an experience. So tonight I wanted to conclude on the idea of seeing into being. And I don't know if you had thoughts about it during the week, or if the week went so fast you barely had time to think. But it's a beautiful concept. And we've seen that the idea of being clear on what am I looking at, what am I seeing, can bring changes into who I am based on what I see. And so we went at length into the idea of seeing, which is almost like a muscle. And we know there are so many aspects connected to the way we see. Sometimes people say, well, I didn't see it that way. Which means actually I didn't think of it that way. Sometimes we say we see with our eyes. They say the essential is not visible through the eyes. You can only see it through the heart. So we see with the eyes, but we see with the heart. We see with the way we feel. Some people we were saying last few times that in French, there was this kind of voir, vouloir, croire, pouvoir. That was the rhythm of the seeing. It's just whatever you see, then you start to want it, you start to believe in it, and then you find the strength to get it, to be it. And the way we see it sometimes is we see with the feelings, sometimes we see with the understanding, sometimes we see with the eyes, sometimes we see with the eyes of somebody else. So just in the approach of seeing, there's already a whole rhythm. But in the process of being, there's also a different approach going on there. And one of them is that we want to be somebody, right? Like you want to be in a certain way. And sometimes we don't know what we want to be, actually. Because sometimes we know how we should be in terms of behaving, in terms of attitude, and sometimes profession. We know what we want to be in life sometimes. But I don't know if we really know sometimes that what we want to be is just, for example, to be peaceful, to be happy, to be love. Not loved or loving, but just to be love. Have you ever had that desire to be that? And if you go really into the subtleness of that, it's not even just being happy, I want to be happy. But actually, I used the wrong word. I really meant I want to be happiness. Not I want to be happy, I want to be happiness. It means like sometimes you're happy because of something. But if your happiness, it's just like you're vibrating on the frequency of happiness for no particular reason, really. You're just happiness. You're experiencing happiness beyond the idea that I want happiness, like a possessing happiness. I know it's very abstract what I'm talking about, but we'll get to concrete things. Because I think there's a difference between being happiness and being happy. Being peace is different from being peaceful. And being love, which I meant was not being loving or being loved, but just being love, is different. And where I'm getting with that is that the question of who I want to be is connected to what do I see in me? Like, who do I think I am? Who am I? That determines what I can be. If you realize one day that you are the great-great-grandchild of a famous person who was a multi-billionaire, you might start to think, maybe I have some money somewhere. Maybe you left something. Maybe you have a right because he's my great-great-grandfather. I have a lineage. If you don't know you are the great-great-grandchild of someone, you may not even think you can get something from that person. So when we start to identify ourselves with somebody or something, or who am I, the question of what I can be is quite different. If some people believe really of being a certain social class, a certain social group of people, they might start to believe they could never be someone great. If you look at the life of, I think it's Abraham Lincoln, he started really bad, he didn't start his life in a proper way. And I think his youth was pretty miserable, and he was rejected, couldn't complete his school. People told him he would never go anywhere. And one day he was, president of United States. So the becoming, like who am I going to become, usually start with people having a vision and knowing who they want to be. If you interview most of the greatest athletes in the world, they will tell you that one day either they had the thought they would be number one in their sport, or sometimes it's the parents who had that vision for them. They were too young. They were 4 or 5 years old. And in the term of Andreas Agassi in the tennis, he hated tennis as a kid. But his dad told him, I think when he was 3 or 4 years old, he said, you will be number one in the world in tennis. And then I guess he wanted to play something else. He was not interested. And he had to practice, but he became addicted to tennis. And he wanted to be number one because his parents told him he would be number one. And he became number one in the world at some point. So what I will become is really based on what I see at some point, what I believe, what I want. Then I can become that. So that's why we spend most of the time, last sessions, to think about what am I seeing. But in the process of being, and we know that sometimes we want to be happy simply because we're tired of not being happy, because we're annoyed of not being happy again. We want to be loved because we don't feel loved. And in that way I feel that to want to be peaceful or loved or, happy is different from being happiness, in a sense like I still want just to fix myself. And just to fix the self is okay. But it's not the ultimate good. It's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be happiness, to be, peace, to be love. Why? Because this is my true original identity. And if I'm really happiness, love, and peace, then it's very easy to be loving or to feel loved. It's very easy to be happy in any circumstances because I'm connected with the source, which is happiness, peace, and love. So I know it's abstract, but we'll meditate on it a bit at the end, and you'll see where the difference is. And one process which is interesting in going from seeing into being is this notion that we sometimes become confused between being and behaving. And we know that sometimes we start with believing, we go with behaving, and we want becoming so we can be. That's usually the process we go through. It starts with believing, then we go into behaving, then into becoming. So then we can just be, just not have or leave or come, we just be. Do you see the process? You cannot just become right like that. Before you become, you believe, then you have to behave, then you can become, then you can just be. And that's the nuance I wanted to make between becoming happy or being happiness. It's not the same thing. So we saw it starts with believing. You have to believe that it's possible. In bracket, talking about tennis, there's another player, and I'm sorry to focus only on tennis, but that's the only one I know about. And there's another player which is quite entertaining. He's Canadian, Milos Raonic. And what he said in an interview, he said that he would like to be number one in the world, even just for a short time. And when he said that, I thought, don't say that. You might just become number one for a short time. Why do you want to be number one for a short time? Just don't put that into your belief. Put in your belief, I mean, who am I to tell him what to think? I told him, why don't you think I want to be number one in the world? Don't give already condition, right? And then if you say to your boss, I'd be happy to have an increase in my salary just for 2-3 months, you know. The boss will say, yeah, no problem. I give you 2-3 months. Well, he's happy with 2-3 months, fine. I'll give him only 2-3 month raise in his salary. So again, that was for me an illustration. I would be very curious to know if this guy, in the next few years, become number one in the world. I'd be very curious to know if he will become just for a short time, or if he would become for a long time. And if he becomes for a short time, you know, we could pull out the interview he would have given years before, saying, you see, that's the seed you planted. Number one for a short time. That's the fruit you're getting. So they work like that, right? So it starts with what I believe, then how I behave, what I become. But there's one key word which we tend to forget in that process, which is a fundamental word in this organization that we find very, very important. Can you think of a word, and it's very convenient, it starts with B as well, but it's the last part of the word which is very different. So from believing to behaving to becoming, one is missing somewhere in between. Those who are reading what we call Merle will know it. B? Yeah, become is there. Being is at the end, yeah.
It goes between which words?
I would say it goes between behaving and becoming, or becoming and being. It's one that comes a bit later on. It's not.
Seeing.
Huh? Seeing is there, yeah. Yeah, that was in the when we did the eye exercise. We had this seeing, wanting. It starts with B. Okay, and Christelle will know. No, I'm joking. Belonging. That's a beautiful word. Who do you belong to? It's a strange concept, no? Who do I belong to? But if you think about it, in our life, we have to make a few commitments. And those commitments, they tend to translate into a belonging. In relationship, it's a big moment when you get married, isn't it? And I might be wrong because I didn't get married. So I may have got it wrong completely. I didn't read the whole contract, but I think from what I've seen in movies, it transforms from, being a girlfriend or boyfriend to be a husband and wife, which is not the same terminology. Many people object to those words now. They don't like someone to call another person my wife. But I think, like everything else that we do and say, the original intention is always quite interesting. Then what it becomes, it's always different. Religions had many beautiful concepts in the beginning, and they became something quite different. So I believe that in relationship, the crucial moment where we go from really dating into building a life together is when we agree to belong to one another. And it might be clumsy, the way we say it. My wife might object to that, my husband. But what is behind it is we belong to one another. And that is potentially a beautiful idea. Because belonging, if you think about it, it's a kind of letting go, an abandon. In French, it's really like you have to surrender. Yeah, maybe the word in English would be you surrender. So you recognize that you are not owning, you're not owning your belonging. This is very different. Arrogance and manipulation come from owning. Humility, concessions, flexibility come from belonging. If you belong, then it's easy. If you own, it may be harsh. No? Not sure you're following me, but yeah. I see your eyes going, Tell me if I'm really too much on a Friday night and you feel my week has been way too heavy. Eric, just relax. Tell me if you don't follow, right? But I was contemplating those ideas because I felt it's a beautiful, crucial concept, seeing into being, because that's our spiritual life. If we're just seeing and enjoying what we're seeing and not becoming, what's the point? And the success of a spiritual person, I think that was last week, we said, if you measure success by your degree of happiness, you're only spiritual to the extent that you're happy. Well, to me, that was a little bit of what we call an eye-opener. It means I could see more. If I'm not that happy, that means I'm not maybe that spiritual. I thought I was spiritual. But if I'm only spiritual to the extent I'm happy, I may not be spiritual enough. So the process is very interesting. And when I was thinking, what really makes us become? The feeling was that one of the key elements that will allow me to surrender my old being so I can have a new being is that idea of belonging. In Raj Yoga, we're told that at some point the soul has to realize that it is belonging to the Supreme Soul. So the wedding is between the soul and the Supreme Soul. And we believe, actually, and I use that word very consciously, we believe in Brahma Kumaris that the essence of the whole life of the soul on earth is to recreate that experience of the soul belonging to the Supreme Soul. And that moment where the human soul has felt the love for the Supreme Being to the extent that the soul could say to the Supreme, I belong to you. That experience of pure love between the soul and God and the soul and the Supreme Soul, that experience was so incredible that when we came on earth, we wanted to reproduce that with whoever we found. Initially we became very difficult. We only tried that with almost semi-gods and goddesses, very religiously, very spiritually. Then we found that was very difficult and not too many customers were there to fulfill our needs. So we compromised, we started amongst ourselves, husband and wife. Then it didn't work, so we used dogs and cats and giraffes and and whatever. We always joke, but we say, yeah, people went from belonging to God to belonging to the dog. They already got it upside down. Nothing wrong with dogs and cats, no? It's just that belonging is still, we're searching for that little buzz as a spirit. But that buzz originates from our connection with the Supreme Being. And that connection has been so powerful that when we came on earth, every time something goes wrong, we turn to God, say, yeah, God, I need you, I want your help. I know you fixed this at some point. I want to do that again. And we know that basically, really, our relationships with human beings are trying to fulfill our need. That we had, I mean, our needs that were fulfilled when we were with the Supreme Being. Now, not being with God, we feel we're missing that fulfillment, that overwhelmed feeling of being complete, being, that's the word we used last time. Instead of being perfect, we felt, no, the right word is being complete. That completion is missing, so we're becoming vampires, and we're trying desperately to get that everywhere we can. In sensual pleasures, in relationships, in money, in power, in beauty, in nature, in a spa, in a hot tub, or whatever we can get it, we go for it. But we're trying to reproduce with human beings what we're missing from our relationship with the Supreme. And that's why I was saying, in relationship with God, you don't feel happy. You feel your happiness, because He's the ocean of happiness. In relationship with God, you don't feel, oh, it's very loving, He's cute, He's nice. No. You're overwhelmed with love. It's the ocean of love. So you are love, and you are with the ocean of peace, so you are peace. So that connection that we experience at some point gave the soul that reference, that my perfect self, my complete self, my most beautiful self, is when I was buzzing on that frequency. And that was like deeply printed in our memory as a soul. And coming on earth, we know we're missing that connection. So we're trying to initially reproduce it. And that's what we did thousands of years ago. Imagine everything we did in the past seems to be, when it starts, always so more beautiful. And I know I joked about it recently, but if you look at the way people used to dress themselves before, that was complicated, my dear. It was very elaborated, right? That is many layers and fancy clothes, and it was beautiful, though. If you look at them carefully, I mean, there's so many pieces of fabric and details and this and that. We could do things. When we built houses before, they were not ordinary houses. They were really stylish. You know, they call them Victorian houses or colonial houses. Now we build boxes, really, cubes, and Jeep rocks, you know, just 2x4. That's it. Everything that originates with power and beauty, and then it goes down. When jazz was born, that was like the kings of jazz, they were in the past. The kings of Hollywood, they were in the past. And now it's byproducts, and they don't last very long. They're just heroes and, how do you call it, flavor of the month. That's what people are. That's it. The original ones are big. Original religions were massive. Today, it's little groups here and there, and nothing lasts. It's nobody, I haven't seen a Jesus coming up for a long time. You know, good actors. I mean, what's her name? Lady Gaga. Nice, you know. It's not Jesus showing up on earth again. Can compare. So we haven't seen a Jesus or Buddha or Mohammed for quite a long time. Everybody has an iPad, but he had the supreme iPad, you know, when he came with his tablet. It was powerful. So the idea of going through the process, yes, there is believing. I have to believe in something about who I will become, what I want to become. And before my belief about who I become reality, I have to behave, I have to practice. But then we realize it's difficult. And what will change that practice into a natural nature, a natural state of being, which will become me, is when I add that little word, which is belonging. And that forces me to realize, what is my relationship with the world, with whatever I want to belong to? Because I'm proposing the Supreme Being, but you may not want to get married with the Supreme Being. You might prefer, you know, a tree or a lake or nature or whatever. But if we think about the degree of surrender, or the degree of love, the degree of commitment, ultimately it becomes a belonging. And that expression we use in Raj Yoga when it says, you belong to me, And Betty Jenke has been reminding us for the last many years. She always says, you say Om Shanti 3 times, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. And she said, why? Because you say about who am I? But then the second one is, who do I belong to? Who am I, but who do I belong to? In old families in Europe, I don't know, maybe here will be the same thing. Those who have the family of the Kennedy, for example, they belong. That's a belonging of that family. But for me, even I lived that when I was young, as a kid, in a small village in France. We had to defend the name of the family. You are not John or Peter. You are the last name of your family. And in the village, they used to know us, who is the little of that family. And the family name was very important. You had to honor the family name. Today it doesn't. And there's so many Tremblay anyway in Quebec that they just give up on pretending it's only one big family. It's too many. But the old style in communities where you belong to a family, that's very important. And that family name, if it's a very respected family name, you have to behave accordingly. Because if you make a mistake and you belong to that family, it's worse. Those in England who belong to that family, that royal family, they have cameras on their nose all the time. They may be ordinary people, really, but just happen they were born, in the lineage of the Queen. That's a little burden to carry. If you're the descendant of the Queen, well, you have to live according to that. It comes with the whole thing. But where does it become important? If he's rebellious, that means he doesn't want to belong. But once the prince accepts his status and enjoys it and feels, I belong to that family, this is very important, then he will wear, the armories, he will wear all the signs that honor that family. And for him it will be a privilege to belong to that family. So the belonging brings with it something very powerful. And the realization that I belong to God means, wow, okay, if you want to belong to the army, when you walk through the door of the army, they will say, well, your makeup, we don't need that. Your purse, you don't really need it. Your cell phone, we'll give you one. That's a secret one. Your high heel shoes, sorry, no need for that here. So the moment you belong to a group or a group of individuals, a few things have to stay behind. And so belonging to God or to the Supreme also means I have to leave a few things behind. And that's where we struggle. It's like if you get married and you sign a contract, you have to say your vows, isn't it? When you get married? And you vow that no matter what, I'll be there for you, I'll belong to you, I'll be there, you'll be here for me, isn't it? You make a vow, you promise that will be against all storms and everything, you'll be there. It comes with the belonging. So it's kind of an interesting word to put into the equation. Before I become, I may need to belong. Now this is like the process. The ingredients we use, and you'll see where I'm getting into the whole blending of all this by the end, but the ingredients we use to be happiness, to be peace, to be love. We said there's also in the believing, behaving, belonging, becoming, there's ingredients we have to consume. And what we're told is that if the Supreme were to come and say, okay, I will help you to become, I'll give you 3 things. And you'll have to consume those 3 things if you really want to be. And it's called the treasures of our spiritual journey. The first treasure is ideas, information. We call it sometimes understanding, knowledge. But they're just ideas, basically. It's just ideas. Being a soul, we can say knowledge, but it's actually just an idea. Right? Everyone is right. That's an idea. Everybody is exactly who they need to be. That's what we call drama. It's perfect. Someone just yells at you, perfect. That's exactly what you were meant to do. You're playing your role beautifully. It is written in the drama. Good. Congratulations, you're playing very well. Do you believe in it? It's an idea. It's just an idea. Is it truth? Is it not? Doesn't really matter. It's just an idea. So we're told that the first ingredient we're going to have to work with are ideas. And then ideas are meant to change into virtues. Basically, they are sophisticated behaviors, isn't it? Values, virtues, qualities. The rough edges are called skills, talents, competence. Is it English? Yeah, competence. Do you see what the building of it? Like there's rough edges, which are like very, very basic, competence, skills, everything. Then they become qualities, abilities, talents, values, virtues, divine virtues. You know, it's a whole graduation, but it's the same family. Ideas is different. You can have a great idea, but have absolutely no value at all, or no virtue at all. They may not match your ideas at all. So I had a great idea. We should all be very nice to each other. That's a very good idea. Now, are you going to be nice with everyone? That belongs to values, virtues, skills. So ideas are meant to become values or qualities, sophisticated behavior, right? It's like learning how to dance. Dance is a movement. Walking is a movement. Falling is a movement. But dance is something you can call sophisticated movement. It's kind of elegant, unless you don't know how to dance, and that becomes a kind of disgracious movement. It just becomes a disgracious movement. And then the person would say, you don't know how to dance. You dance really bad. So from just thinking to sophisticated behavior is the same thing. It's just a process. And the third ingredient we're going to work with is called higher level of energy. Means moving from just gracious behavior into spreading a high level of energy that will be transformative for everyone. That means impact. That means power. That means influence. I'm becoming a magnet because that gracious behavior is awakening ideas in the head of other people. It's giving other people the belief that they could maybe do that. And if they could do that, they would be much better. They would be better. Do you see? It's power. If you dance with a lot of arrogance and ego and vanity, people watching, they will not be moved. If you dance with humility and grace and surrender and inspiration, other people are moved. And I've seen a documentary recently about kids losing their parents at a very young age. And the potential of that documentary could be really, heartbreaking. And I wasn't moved at all. I watched it, and I thought, go and get your box of Kleenex, because I lost my mom when I was a kid. And I thought, oh, this is going to be hard to watch. And for strange reason, I wasn't moved. And I realized that why am I not moved? Why am I not inspired by it? Because it was too controlled. It was too brainly. It was just trying to present something almost as if, do you get it? Like this is it, this is it, this is it. And I thought, yeah, I get it. But I wanted to feel it. I didn't need to be told so much. Actually, I didn't need to be told anything. It's so strong as a concept. Just let me experience it. And I find that sometimes if we dance or skill or behave, and that sophistication is not real, it's just arrogance, doesn't create any power, doesn't touch people, doesn't affect people, doesn't influence people. But if the ability to move graciously is real, it inspires other people. It really moves people. So these are the three ingredients we'll be asked to play with. Ideas, qualities or skilled behaviors, like values, something like that, qualities. And then power. The jargon we use in Brahma Kumaris is knowledge, virtues, and powers. But if we open that box and say what it is, then it's ideas, abilities and gracious behavior, and then energy. Power is just energy. And these three things are really combined with the process of going from believing to behaving, belonging, becoming. And if we play with these ideas, just look at our life and say, what am I doing? If you look at your life, how much do you believe? How much does it inspire you to behave? How much have you become since the last few years? That's some kind of a process we need to pay attention to. And so the method we use to articulate all this is called check and change. So the way to apply ideas, values, and energy, or to move from believing to becoming, is going constantly through a process of check and change. It means check, see where you are, what are you doing, how are you behaving, what do you believe, do you really believe. Are you, for example, aware that your beliefs are changing over time? Are you aware that certain things you used to believe you don't believe into it, and you don't believe it anymore? Have you seen it? It's quite powerful to have the humility to say, well, I don't know, I used to believe that, I don't believe that anymore. I met one of our member of the organization, and the whole thing of the meditation here is about being a point of light. And one person said, you know what, I don't believe we're a point of light. I said, you don't? Oh, that's quite interesting. Then we have to change our rings, our logo, or the flag, because how will you decorate your room? Because we are pretty much convinced that we are a point of light. And this is what we show here, and this is what we show here, and this is... Those flags, by the way, are for celebrating a big festival called Shivratri, which we are going to celebrate Sunday night. If you want to come and enjoy a very entertaining tale of, tales of religious stories, and how through religious stories we can really come up with very entertaining stories, but they're stories. But what's the meaning behind it is beautiful. And one of that story is about transforming the night into the day. And of course, our whole process of becoming, or being from, believing to becoming, is changing everything which is dark within the self into something luminous. So the person told me, yeah, I don't think I believe anymore I'm a point. I said, well, you're in trouble, because, this is kind of fundamental to Raj Yoga philosophy. But I liked still the idea. Initially, my reaction was, you're wrong, you're not believing the right way. But I thought, what do I really believe myself? How much do I believe that? How much do I believe God is just a being of light? If I really, really, really believe that, I should see God more often as a being of light. So the process of believing is really vibrant, and even that we should check. As my beliefs, are my beliefs really moving? Are they changing? Are they strong? Are they, say, paka, firm? Or is my faith a little bit shaking? And if faith is shaking, well, what can you do with it? If faith is shaking, if before crossing the road you don't believe you might reach the other end before the truck comes, I would highly suggest don't try to cross the road. Just stay quietly there, wait for the truck to pass. Then maybe reconsider your belief. Instinctively, You know, someone who starts crossing the street running, even though the bus is coming. Well, they have the faith, I can do it. But if you hurt your ankle, you don't do that. You wait. So what do I believe I can do? What do I believe I can be? What do I believe everything is? That's a big thing. We have to check. Then we check our behavior. You know, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Today I got slightly impatient with someone. And it was misunderstanding. He was saying something, I was saying something, and then he said something, I said something. Then he said something, I says, I heard what I just told you. He said, yeah, but I'm telling you this. And I didn't understand really what he meant, and he didn't understand exactly what I meant. Not that we argued or anything, but it was, for me, in my scale of earthquake, you know, from 0 to 100, I was at 1, and I thought, oh, it's shaking here. So in my scale, it was like, oh, Eric, just be careful, you're becoming impatient. You talked a little bit, you know, abruptly. And to me it was enough to say, hey, why? And I realized, what shall I do next time? And my thought was, next time, if somebody says something makes me react, ask the person, what do you mean? That's a good idea. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. I'll ask that next time. What do you mean? Even though it's something that might seem obvious, but if we don't agree, maybe I didn't understand what he really means. So I thought, that's the key. Next time, ask, what do you mean? So then you listen more before just throwing back what I think we all mean, really. So checking my behavior is good. So we can improve, we can change it, we can make it work better. And then, of course, checking my belonging. Do I have that pride that I belong to the Supreme? Do I have that pride that I'm representing? You know, some people belong to a, what do they call it, a school of thought. They say, moi j'appartiens à cette école de pensée, right? In French you say, I belong to that school of thought. That's a pretty interesting thing. It means like I've surrendered part of my brain to that school of thought. So whatever they say, that's good, I put it in my brain, I'm happy with it. Isn't that what it means? I've surrendered to that school of thought. I mean, I subscribe to it, I believe it. So, and when I feel that I'm maybe not clear, I go back to that school of thought. Tell me, because I belong to you, you can tell me what I should think, and I will think that. That's belonging. And so the belonging is quite interesting. If I belong to the Supreme, I have to check it. Do I really, really behave as if I'm belonging? We are told all the time, just honor. They call it a strange expression, God's, and I never know how to pronounce it, so I always say beard. Is it beard? Barbe, beard. Because when I pronounce it, it says honors God's beard, and this is what? So I know there's Brahma beer, you know, they think this is what I mean. That's no. And then I say beard or bird or baird. The bear? Oh no, the bear, yeah. You have to honor God's bear. So what? So honor God's beard. It's an expression in English, right? You have to honor the beard of your father, of your grandfather. You have to be respectful to the family. I didn't even heard that expression before. So you have to feel, you know, sometimes I joke about it, sometimes I'm in the park or somewhere, and you know, maybe yawning or just staring at something, and then somebody comes and says, oh, hello, Om Shanti. I say, oh, you know, I'm supposed to be the supreme yogi, you know, very spiritual, and here I am just you know, being numb, and suddenly I feel there's nothing wrong. I mean, most people in the park are like that. But me, because I'm supposed to be the yogi doing everything, I'm feeling sometimes guilty, you know. What did I do? If I stare on the window looking at shoes and everything, and someone says, hello, I'm Shanti, you really like those shoes, huh? And they look at the shoes, you know, $300. Yeah, it's very spiritual shoes, right? Might feel guilty of staring at expensive shoes when I'm supposed to be simple and yogi. So that's what I mean by belonging. You suddenly feel you have a disconnection between what you belong to. So it's connecting to my behavior, my becoming. So, and I think the belonging is the deepest one, because it is really about commitment, vow, saying to God, yeah, okay, I know you want me to be like you. It's not a small thing. If God comes to say, you're my son, you're my child, you should be like me. So whatever is in my heart, happiness, love, and peace, you shouldn't have that much in your heart, isn't it? That could be like that. They say that if someone becomes something, he can say to anyone, if I became this, you can do it too. I'm working, there's another producer is working on a documentary about a guy who used to be in a street gang, really to the point where he got arrested because of shooting and things like that. He didn't shoot anyone, but somebody next to him shot somebody. He went to jail and everything. And from street gangs, he became world champion in boxing and other fighting. But nice, as a professional sport. And now he's running a school in Montreal, who is just for street kids. Those are really rough. I mean, they are really. They have 20 years old. They can't complete their secondary school, and they go into a lot of trouble with drugs and this and the other. So he takes those kids, and why those kids feel they can do something is only because they have a model, and they see him and they say, if he did it, I can maybe do it. And what they do, then they say, I belong to that school. And it becomes like a religion. Their guru is this guy. And whatever he says, they have to do it. Because they say, well, I belong to that now. So when we make God our kind of little mentor or teacher, you say, well, I know you want me to be better. We know he wants us to be better. And we can. I think God has great faith on us. He has seen the beauty in us. He knows the beauty in us. He has faith in us. But he says, you can only become by yourself. I can't make you become. You have to do it yourself. So he says, I give you jewels, I give you powers, I give you virtues. I ask you to check yourself all the time, but you have to do it. But if you want to do it easy, belong to me. Surrender to me. So I'll stop on that. I hope it makes sense. It does to me, but yes, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, of course.
The conclusion to the stage. The stage of 6 characters.
You're right. You're right. Thank you. You know what? It's funny because on my way here in the car, I was saying, what did I say last week that I might have to complete? And I honestly remember many things. Totally forgot about that 6th thing. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So for those online who have no clue what we're talking about, so last time we asked every one of you to find 6 characters. That's cool. Thank you. I totally forgot about it. So many things happened within a week that to me that was. So did you find 6 characters?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Did you find them entertaining? Did you find them revealing?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you really work on each one of them to see if they had the right terminology? Yeah. And okay. Did you put them on the stage? Did you find some ended up in a strange... Oh, wow, this is really cool. You did a PowerPoint with it. Cool.
It's like I'm going to send you my PowerPoint of the stage.
That's nice. Anyone wants to share some of it? Or, I know it's very private. I wouldn't share all of them. But were you surprised to see how some ended up? For me, in the stage, one ended up on the roof. One ended up completely off stage. He just got ejected from the stage and was really, really upset about it. And then one was in the middle, and I was very surprised to see who was in the middle. You had one in the middle? Be careful about that one, right? No? It could be good.
It defines a lot.
It's a what?
It defines
Yeah, it defines a lot. I thought that was his name. It defines a lot. I said, who's that? It defines a lot. Yeah, it's quite, whoever you put in the center of the stage is speaking loud, right? So,
I had to
under the stage, wow. Dig them out. They're there, but they're under the stage.
Similar, but two facets.
Yeah. Any other surprises or anyone handed up somewhere else?
I just wrote down mine. I didn't draw them on stage.
You wrote?
I defined them, but I didn't put them on
It's good to try to put them on a stage because psychologists are thrilled when you do that. They say, my goodness, because it speaks a lot. Because where do they end up? It's quite revealing. Because some you can't put them on the center of the stage. And that should tell us something. Why you cannot go on the center. And if you try to put one of those who are under on the center, they will say, no way. I feel much better there. Right? And ask the one in the center to go on the side, he's not happy. He says, no, I'm here. So the location of those 6 characters is very revealing. The name of those characters are very revealing as well, why we call them like this. And I don't know if you did that exercise, and probably instinctively you saw it, but your characters, are they all there since you were very young and they're still here today? Yeah? Yeah, and see them going through time. See how they change form during the decades. They just change fashions, they change their hats and this, and they adapt it to the time, but they're still the same. They're still the same, the root is the same, the DNA is the same, but they change their appearance, their clothing or their style. So now, the next part of the exercise, which is very simple and very wonderful to do, is that you have to now use those, the thinking behind it is that you can't get rid of any of those 6 characters. You cannot get rid of them. They will always be there. Not around. You have to understand that they only will bring within you your fulfillment when they start to work together. And so now what you have to imagine is how those 6 characters, you have to organize a meeting. That's the first thing you have to do. You call them all 6, dig out the one under the stage, pull them up on the stage, ask the one in the middle, sorry for a moment, I have to maybe put you in a circle or on a line, or you have to find a way for yourself. You have to bring them together and realize, make them talk to each other and says, how can you work together? And what is the complete self? Which we don't like it sometimes, but it's called the perfect self. Again, with the thinking that the perfect self is not that you get rid of those 6 or you only keep 1 or 2 and kill the other ones. You can't kill any of those. It would be illegal. You go in jail for that. So whoever you found, those 6 ones, they will always be there.
But why 6? Will there be more?
Yeah. There could be more.
Or less?
Less. I would be very surprised. If you don't find 6, I'll find them for you. I can find some of them. We know them. Other people know them. If you were to ask someone else to tell you, can you see 6 personalities in me? You have to find someone who knows you quite well. Those who don't know you very well, they will find 2 or 3 easily. Because everybody is basically pretty schizophrenic and bipolar by nature anyway. But we can find 3 or 4 or 5, and we find 6 quite. I find 6 is good because it forces you to think a little bit. They don't come quickly like this, isn't it? 2, 3, 4, the 5th and the 6th. Normally you search for them, didn't you? You search for them a little bit, and you know that. And if you search more, you'll find more. So the idea is that the perfect self, the complete self, is actually the self in which those 6 characters find a way to be together in harmony and help each other. And what is beautiful in that exercise is when you find that one character who may not be the one you prefer, who may not be the glorious one, who may be the defective one, who may be the trouble maker one, who may be the how to say, the psychotic one, or the really dangerous one. How can you neutralize that negativity with the others? How can the others surrender a little bit their over superiority complex to go down a little level and talk to the little one and says, hey, I can help you. And if I cannot, I'm sure I can get this one to help you, because sometimes it's going to be complicated alliances, and that they have to, it's like there was a game like this. They put people in a room and they had to do something, and they quickly realized nobody could do it alone. And the only way they could do something is by using all of them. They needed to be 5 or 6 people to put their body in certain ways so they could achieve something. But one person only can do it. Another exercise which is very simple is when they have people eating at the table and suddenly they're given a very, very long fork, which they all realize that they say you have to hold it like this, and they can't do that. And the only way they could eat their plate is having the humility of letting somebody else feed them. And they had to feed somebody else. Very interesting exercise. So that exercise is to find a way to meet these people together. They have to talk together, and eventually they have to negotiate another way of putting themselves back on stage. And that other way of being on stage might move according to time, because we're in a process of transformation. So for example, if you found a weak personality in those 6, I don't know if there's one, which would be what? For me, I confessed last week, there was the left behind brother. So this little brother who has been abandoned by his sister, or by his spiritual sister, or by his idols, because what I meant by it changed forms according to time. In my youth, it might be a silly little thing of my sister forgetting me in a party. But 20 years later, it became a woman that I trusted very much, who just didn't include me in a meeting. And I felt, wow, how could you not invite me? I felt very hurt. And 20 years later, it became, my boss at CBC, who'd, etc. So, but the thread was there all the time. And so the idea was, for example, to say to that left behind brother, now, instead of being gone, that was for me the one who was totally ejected from the stage, and he was not even on the stage. The 5 other characters had to tell that one, why don't you come on stage? Not that they have to put him in the middle, because he will die of, being overwhelmed with it. But where would those 6 or 5 other characters would say, where do you stand? And I found in my psychological therapy that it was one other character that had to say to him, you come next to me and I'll give you sustenance for a while. I'll take care of you for a while. And to me it was a very strange combination. And that combination meant for me that when I feel a little bit left alone, or when I feel a little bit unvalued, or when I feel a little bit forgotten, I had to call a strange other character to tell me, can you help me? And if you play that game of putting your characters in this kind of odd new couples or new trios, and ultimately a new sextet, they have to be 6 together in harmony, it creates a very, very interesting mixes or combinations. And the idea, again, I would suggest to you to imagine those 6 being together in a meeting, talking to each other. And then after that, you have to play your role, so you have to put them back on the stage. And sometimes you have to tell to the 6 characters, it's okay, you can go back where you felt comfortable with. And maybe those who are under the stage have to go back temporarily under the stage. But everybody else knows. The 4 other characters, they have to keep in mind, we have to keep in mind there's 2 underneath. So what do we do about them? Do you see the concept? So it's a working process, but the design, those who have made a beautiful PowerPoint, you miss a few slides now. And the next slides has to be the coming together of this group. And what will be the final family picture of these 6 characters pausing for the camera? Who is where? How do they pause? The final stage is, what's your bouquet of those 6 characters in a postures where it totally makes sense, and this is what you feel is, I love you all, and I accept you all, because none of them are either over positive or over negative. They all have complete each other in such a way that there's no hero and there's no loser. And so the last slide of the PowerPoint should be the family picture. This is Adam's family, This is a very original Adam and Eve. This is Adam's family. This is, for those who know, the funny Siri, we are the Adams family. Very odd, but that's the original one. So imagine the last picture will be those 6 characters pausing for the family photo. And just watch who is where in the family photo. They have to be together, of course. So, enjoy. Good luck. Was it worth asking for it, or no? You seem to be puzzled with some of your characters. Yeah? Why they don't get along together? They have to. They are part of you. You can't get rid of them. And Christian,
How do you do that? Do you again sit down and draw them again and rearrange the whole thing, or do you just do that mentally?
It takes time to meditate on why this one can not talk to that one. If you look at one of the weak character, the one that you would like to throw away, and you just ask about this one, well, what can the other ones do for it? For him or her, or for this one? That would take a little time to figure it out. It's really like, it's spiritual psychology, really. But it's very jnani, it's very knowledgeable. If you use Rajayoga knowledge, it's fascinating. Because what we are told in Rajayoga is very much about doing that. If you have a weakness, it's not just like, ignore it or destroy it. But you have to find what is the power that will match it. And we're told that the soul carries good and bad personality traits all the time. The only thing that changes is the way they combine with each other. That's it. When love is really enlightened, hatred is just so quiet. He's just watching love and say, yes, so beautiful. I'm not going to say anything. But then when love is dying, hatred starts to play its role. That's it. Hatred cannot exist if there's love. But the moment love extinguishes, hatred is fine. It was there, it just didn't get activated. So our characters will always be there. It's just they will change. There's this beautiful video I saw again on this is my new guru, Facebook, and it shows a little boy who, is in a wheelchair, and then suddenly a basketball comes to him, and so he wants to bring the basketball, the ball, to the other kids, but he watched them playing, and he seems to enjoy so much, but he's in his wheelchair, and one guy sees him, leaving the ball and going back, a bit sad at his home. And the next shot, which is beautiful, is that the little boy is in his house with his wheelchair, and suddenly he sees the ball of the basketball on his balcony. And he says, so he thought, well, these guys, they're playing over there. And so when he takes the ball, puts it in his thing, and when he goes towards the kids, he realizes, they're all, one has taken a chair of an office with wheels, and he's attaching himself, and he's moving with his chair. Another one took a little thing for kids, with 4 wheels, with a little bull, and he's playing with it. And each one found something rolling, odd things rolling. Anything that rolls, they used it. And then they told the kid, come and play with us. So the kid in a wheelchair suddenly feels he can play with the others. To me, this is what I'm talking about. Those 5 other characters, to accommodate another one, they have to do something. There will still be the one with the big head who thinks he's the best person in the world, but now he will be in a wheelchair, helping the other guy. So he will learn to not be a big head, and the other wheelchair guy will feel he's being valued, he's being respected. So this is the exercise I'm talking about. So when these 5, 6 characters come together, they will start to really find a way to help each other and to make sense of them all, to say we love you all because you are part of me. I've been carrying you for more than 20, 30, 40 years. They have been reading us for a long time. Why to kill them now? We don't want to kill them, we want to heal them. Right? And maybe the word again will be belonging. They belong to me. So I'm not going to kill them. I just want to honor the fact they belong to me. And I belong to them. That's who we are.
So we've been carrying them forward from previous books also, right?
And they came, they're part of the DNA of the soul. They've always been there. They are only playing their role the way they're playing it now, and this is who I am. But in transforming myself, for me, the left behind brother has become a real leader. And he's the one making sure no one is going to be left behind. He's becoming my best, how do you call him, shepherd? Doesn't lose one sheep, It's not because he knows what it is to be lost. So he has become such a powerful character in me that he's always searching around, making sure no one is forgotten. That's how my syndrome today is sometimes, to always think of people and this one and that one, and it comes from him. But it was not natural before. His reaction, being hurt from being left behind, was to always be raised a little bit and feeling we're not important, having low self-esteem. That was a side effect of it. And because of that exercise that somebody asked me to do years ago, and the process of using it in my spiritual journey with Raj Yoga, it's been really, really, I still think of them sometimes today, They're still there. I like them to be together. And I've really come to terms, this is my family. Okay, I'm happy with this crazy guy in there, Cool down, I know you, okay, yeah. If you have a crazy alligator type of personality, it's all right, you'll be in the picture at the end anyway, so as well enjoy it. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, then increase a little bit of time, but I hope you can play with it and enjoy. So let's conclude with a few minutes of silence, meditation, and then we have beautiful little way to close a series of seeing into being, in putting something in your mouth. Just close your eyes and you just be sweet. Just for a few minutes we enter the beautiful world of our minds. I enter the world of my mind. I know it's a very big, unlimited world. A world of thoughts, a world of images, and a world of feelings. And I tell to my mind that it's not an ordinary mind. It's a great mind. It's a beautiful mind. It is my mind. And in that world, I can project any thought I want. Beautiful thoughts. And those thoughts become images and feelings. I can create in that world thoughts that become like stars, brilliance, light. So I play with my mind like a painter with his paint, a dancer with his feet. I dance in my mind. I create beauty with my mind. And I see that what brings light to my mind are thoughts of peace, thoughts of happiness, and thoughts of love. And I decorate my mind with love, with peace, and with happiness. I have peace in my mind. And my mind loves peace, appreciates peace. There is love in my mind. And the mind needs love. And there is happiness in my mind. It's always there. And when I fill my mind with love and peace and happiness, I just feel it takes everything else. It blooms like a flower. It rises like a sun. It flows like a river. So my mind becomes a brilliant mind, a peaceful mind, a loving mind, and a happy mind. And the whole world of my mind offers me a state of being as if the mind talks to the soul and tells the soul, just be. I have filled myself with peace for you. I have filled myself with love for you. So just be. Be peace. Be love. And be happiness. This is what the soul is. And this is what I want to be.